It was a quiet, early morning in Station 46 when the alarm rang out, shattering the stillness. Firefighter Marcus Hale, who had been sipping coffee in the common room, instantly leapt to his feet. His heart raced as the dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio. Structure fire. Residential. 4th and Jefferson. Multiple occupants inside. Respond immediately. Marcus's gut clenched. House fires were always unpredictable, and this one sounded bad. The entire crew sprang into action, pulling on their turnout gear with the practiced speed of men and women who had done this hundreds of times before. Within minutes, they were barreling down the streets of the city, the fire engine's sirens screaming into the night. Marcus sat in the back, his hands gripping the safety bar in front of him. He exchanged a brief glance with his partner, Jake, who nodded grimly. Neither of them needed to speak, they both knew what could be waiting for them. As they approached the scene, the flickering glow of flames became visible against the dark sky. The house, an old two-story Victorian, was fully engulfed in fire, thick black smoke billowing from the windows. Neighbors stood on the sidewalks, watching in horror as the fire consumed the home. "Goddamn," Jake muttered under his breath as they pulled up. "That's bad." Marcus grabbed his helmet and pulled it on as the truck screeched to a halt. "Let's go," he shouted, adrenaline surging through his veins. The captain's voice cut through the chaos as they jumped out of the truck. "We've got reports of 3 people still inside, top floor." The flames licked at the roof, threatening to collapse the entire structure. Every second counted. Marcus and Jake sprinted toward the front door, which was already partially consumed by fire. They kicked it open, the heat hitting them like a wall. Flames roared from the kitchen and living room, devouring everything in their path. It was like stepping into hell itself. "Stay low," Marcus yelled, crouching down and pulling his mask over his face. Smoke filled the air, making it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The heat was intense, the kind that made your skin feel like it was burning even through the thick layers of gear. The roar of the fire was deafening, but through it all, Marcus focused on one thing: the people trapped inside. They moved quickly through the house, scanning every room on the first floor. No one. The fire was spreading fast, climbing up the walls and threatening to cut off their exit. They needed to get to the second floor, and fast. "Stairs are in the back," Jake shouted over the roar of the flames, pointing through the smoke. The two of them made their way toward the narrow staircase, but just as they reached it, a section of the ceiling collapsed, sending burning debris crashing down in front of them. Marcus jumped back just in time, his heart pounding. "Go around," he shouted, and they raced to the other side of the house where a second set of stairs led up to the bedrooms. The heat intensified as they ascended, the fire now spreading through the walls. As they reached the top of the stairs, Marcus could hear faint cries for help coming from one of the rooms at the end of the hallway. "Over here," he yelled, sprinting toward the sound. The door to the bedroom was partially ajar, and inside, through the thick smoke, he could just make out the shapes of a woman and 2 children huddled together on the bed. The room was filling with smoke fast, and the flames were getting closer. Marcus didn't hesitate. He rushed into the room, pulling a fire blanket from his pack. "It's okay, we're here to get you out," he said, his voice muffled by the mask. The woman looked up at him, her face streaked with soot and tears. "My husband, he went downstairs to try and put out the fire, but he didn't come back." Marcus exchanged a glance with Jake, who was standing in the doorway, keeping an eye on the hallway. They didn't have time to search for the husband, not with the fire spreading this fast. "We'll get you out first," Marcus said, wrapping the blanket around the woman and one of the children. "Stay close to me, and don't breathe the smoke." He picked up the second child, a little girl no older than 5, and gestured to Jake to take the lead. "Let's move." They made their way back down the stairs as quickly as they could, the flames closing in on them from all sides. The heat was unbearable, and the smoke made it hard to see, but Marcus kept moving, his focus on getting the family out alive. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, another explosion rocked the house. A gas line had ruptured somewhere, sending flames shooting up through the floorboards. Marcus stumbled, nearly losing his balance, but he held tight to the little girl in his arms. "Almost there," he shouted, even though he wasn't sure if it was true. They burst through the front door just as the roof of the house gave way with a deafening crash. Marcus didn't stop running until they were clear of the collapsing structure, the air finally free of smoke. He gently set the little girl down on the grass, her face pale but alive. The woman clung to her children, sobbing in relief as firefighters rushed over to check them for injuries. "Is everyone out?" Marcus asked breathlessly, pulling off his mask and wiping the sweat from his forehead. One of the paramedics shook his head. "We're still missing one, her husband." Marcus cursed under his breath and turned to look at the house. It was a raging inferno now, the flames consuming everything. There was no way anyone could survive inside for much longer. "I'm going back in," he said, grabbing his mask and helmet again. "Marcus, wait." Jake called after him, but Marcus was already running toward the house. He knew it was insane going back into that burning death trap, but he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. If the man was still alive, he had to try. The heat was even worse now, the flames so intense they felt like they were searing his skin through the gear. The interior of the house was barely recognizable, the walls blackened and crumbling, the floors dangerously unstable. Marcus forced his way through the smoke and debris, shouting for the missing man. "Where are you?" A faint cough answered him from somewhere near the back of the house. "Hold on," Marcus shouted, pushing forward, ignoring the searing heat. He found the man collapsed near the kitchen, barely conscious and covered in soot. Marcus grabbed him under the arms and dragged him toward the door, his muscles screaming in protest. The fire roared around them, flames licking at their heels. "Just a little farther," Marcus muttered, gritting his teeth. Finally, they broke through the front door, stumbling out into the cool night air. Marcus collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath as the paramedics rushed over to take the man from him. He watched as they worked on the man, trying to stabilize him. It was touch and go for a few moments, but finally, the paramedic gave a thumbs up. The man was alive. Marcus lay back on the grass, staring up at the night sky, the adrenaline finally fading. His body ached, and his lungs burned from the smoke, but he had done it. They had all made it out alive.